State Representative Goldman. I'm running to be obedient to God.
Amen.
Right now, our country is hanging in the balance. It cannot be more clearly said. We are losing our constitutional republic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is no longer Republican versus Democrat. This is now good versus evil.
Yeah.
And the things that are oppressing us, we're not getting our voices heard. People have forgotten that they're not our elected leaders, they're our elected servants. And yet right now there are too many people in Washington, D.C. and in Austin that forget that, and they actually go about their own agenda. And I think it's a travesty. So I do want to reiterate, I think what State Representative Nate Schatzline said is of utmost importance. Regardless of the outcome of this primary runoff, any one of the 6 of us candidates represents a better alternative than what we know is on the other side. Because the Democratic Party is no longer the blue dog Democratic Party of our parents and our grandparents. They have literally lost their way. So what I would say right now is that I'm running to provide a choice. There is a civil war that's going on in the state party, which is mirrored up in Washington, D.C. So I stand for the America First values, the America First principles. President Trump ushered in 3 years of peace and prosperity despite all the protestations that were coming from the mainstream media that he was going to start World War III. Well, guess what? We're much closer to that precipice now. But unfortunately, his agenda was derailed in part by the Summer of Love and an epidemic that was unleashed upon the country, but also in part because of the Republican part of the establishment. They refused to codify his legislative priorities, and as a result, he had to do things through executive order. And then we see what happens when the Democrats stole the White House again. Within the first week, he tossed away 3 dozen of those executive orders, and look at the lovely state of affairs that we're in now. I would suggest we have a similar problem in Austin. I would say that this last legislative session did in fact get some things done. However, there were 8 priorities that the state party gave to the House, and that those 8 were not addressed in the general session. In fact, it took 4 special sessions just to address some of them. I know about those 8 party platforms because I was one of the state delegates. It was a long process of 7,000 people who came up with that agenda. And it was not radical, it was basic common conservative principles. It was protect our elections, secure our border, stop gender modification of children, stop sexualizing our kids, end Democratic committee chairs.
Yes.
Protect our gun rights and grant parental rights and educational freedom. We still haven't accomplished a number of those things, and in fact, they kicked off the session, they moved it up a day so that they could elect Democrat committee chairs, 9 of them, against our protestations. So while I point out these differences, because right now, I don't think that Austin represents the will of we the people. The same way that too many of our elected representatives up in DC don't represent our will as well. So one thing they did prioritize, though, in working with the Democrats was impeaching our Attorney General. I won't couch it quite the way David did, but he's been a good friend of mine for 20 plus years, and he has been a champion for us, pushing back on the unconstitutional administration of first Obama and now Biden. I almost said Biden. And I point this out because, again, this was an example of a collaboration between our Republican leadership in the Texas House down in Austin and Democrats, because they hired 2 attorneys, U.S. attorneys, from the Biden, Merrick Garland's Department of Justice to lead up the impeachment effort. I mean, think about that for a second. Our Speaker of the House worked with the DOJ and hired 2 U.S. attorneys to lead a prosecution of an attorney general, which was not a priority of the Republican Party. So at the end of the day, we offer a binary choice. As I said, there is the America First wing that I think is represented by Ken Paxton, and then there's the establishment that I think is represented by Dave Phelan. And I think in this election, on this primary runoff, you get a chance to choose. Thank you.